Introducing the Open Palm Podcast with host Jerome Shaw, available today on your favorite podcast platforms. The Open Palm Podcast is a positive, uplifting, motivational, and inspirational podcast. The host brings his insight and philosophy, and you can't help but gravitate towards his smile, his words, and his wisdom. Again, the podcast he hosts is titled The Open Palm Podcast. It's about inspirational messages, motivating themes, and thought-provoking ideas and topics. He'll also help you become more aware and in harmony with your own life, giving you a better understanding of your place in the world and using your skills accordingly, greeting the world with an open palm instead of a closed fist. You can find the show today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. You can also connect with the host on Instagram at Jerome Shaw. That's JROMESHAW on Instagram. Jerome Shaw with the Open Palm Podcast. Motivation, meditation, mentality. Go listen, download, and subscribe today.
The best fighter is never angry. This is a quote from the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. This quote tells me many things. What does it tell you? The best fighter is never angry. Once, while training in boxing, I trained for many years, working out in the gym, on the heavy bag, speed bag, double end bag, jump roping, and sparring all kinds of people who would come inside. People from different ethnicities, different nationalities, different heights, and different builds. And I learned to defend myself. I had to. Even with headgear and a mouthpiece, you could still get walloped pretty nicely, to the point where you might receive a concussion or be dizzy, have double vision, or even bleed, as there were times when I was knocked back by shots that had my nose bleeding. I had to learn pretty early on to protect myself, but once I did, I developed a style, long-range style, as I am 6'3" and have an average build of 170 so pounds. I would jab, and use my reach to my advantage, keeping my opponents away from me, standing in the middle of the ring and dancing, using my distance as my defense. I learned that shorter fighters who were more stocky and more muscular, less limber and less flexible and less light on their feet as I, would use their strength to their advantage, using their aggression and closing in quickly, throwing these heavy blows, hooks to the body and head. I had to adapt to their style, able to block, defend, and redirect so as not to incur too much damage. And there were many times that I faced these Mike Tyson or George Foreman types who would just be slugging it at me, just coming at me like Joe Frazier, just like freight trains, just going in, blow after blow, trying to score from my head and not even paying attention to my body that much. While I, standing at a distance, was more like Muhammad Ali, taking blow after blow, dodging, bobbing, and weaving, picking my shots when I could. I learned this lesson that Lao Tzu teaches in the Tao Te Ching. The best fighter is never angry. When I found out that I could use people's anger against them, just as Tai Chi uses the opponent's strength against them. People come at you with anger. You respond with peace. You respond with kindness. You respond with a stable emotion. something that doesn't feed their flame, that doesn't fan it, that doesn't fight fire with fire, but fighting fire with water, being flexible, being yielding, not being stiff and rigid. The best fighter is never angry, and I often found that people who fought with aggression and anger and passion-filled emotion, when they were fueled with that, their gas would soon run out. Soon their tank would be on empty, and they would be easy to pick apart. Cooler heads usually prevailed in the end if they were able to endure the initial onslaught. It's just like an episode of one of my favorite shows, Avatar: The Last Airbender, where the Avatar, Aang, was taught firebending by Zhang and learned a valuable lesson. He was also taught that there was an Admiral Zhao who used to be under the tutelage of the ancient master Zhang, but had never learned the lesson of his own aggression, of his own anger. And when fighting the Admiral Zhao, who had many ships docked at the shore, Aang was able to redirect Zhang, or Admiral Zhao's, fueled anger and his fiery rage against his own ships, realizing that the man had no restraint and was willing to burn down his entire surroundings, even at the expense of his own fleet, to try and get at the young Avatar, eventually putting him in checkmate when all of his ships had burned to a crisp. Are there times in your life where you've been angry? Times in your life where you've had no restraint, where you let your emotions get the better of you and fought with that emotion? What ended up happening? Did you end up succeeding? Did your rage win the day for you? Or did you find that you burned other people or other things around you before the flames cooled down? The best fighter is never angry. Learn this lesson from Lao Tzu. Do not fight with emotion, but instead, keep your calm, keep your cool, stay collected. It is not what happens to us that matters, but how we respond to it that truly wins the day in the end. Thank you for listening, my friend. This has been Jerome Shaw on TOP, the Open Palm Podcast here in San Antonio, Texas. I pray you received an encouraging message letting you know that the best fighter is never angry. Not to fight with your emotions, not to fan the flame of your passion, your anger, or your aggression, but to allow yourself to be like water, to flow like water, and to address any obstacle or situation that comes to pass. For this too shall pass. Pay it forward today by sharing this episode with a like-minded individual who is learning and growing, becoming their greatest version just like you, using their passion for good and not against themselves. If you are just now receiving this podcast, definitely subscribe for more inspirational messages like this. And if you feel compelled to support, consider opening your browser to anchor.fm/jshaw and clicking that support link there is much appreciated. Thank you to all the wonderful supporters who continue to donate to this podcast. Much love go out to you. Have a wonderful and blessed day or night wherever you are. And as always, my friend, take care. Hey there, my friend. So, you've heard about Anchor, but do you know why it's the easiest way to make a podcast? Well, first off, it's free. It allows you to use creation tools that let you record your podcast right from your phone or computer. It also distributes your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can even make money from your podcast with minimum listenership. It's everything you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Can't wait to hear yours. Let's see what you have to offer the world.